he's played. His score is also very reflective of the quality of the games that we've been seeing. Fabi has had an up and down day. On day 1, it was +1 for him. On day 2, he's won some, he lost the last round. So I think it will be about Fabi making a recovery from his loss against Liam. And as we were talking about earlier, from the Grand Chess Tour perspective, the overall standings, it's important for Fabi to at least finish close to the top. This would be bad news for those who are following him, including Jan Nepomniachtchi, including Ali Reza and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. And we've got action, we've got the English opening on the board.
C4 and E5. By the way, just to buttress the point that Peter made at the opening of the show, Nepo was one of those players, well, not one of those players, he was the player who didn't make a single draw in day 1 of the Blitz. And how many draws has he had?
I think he made a couple now, which is very regrettable.
Very regrettable.
Should not be allowed.
By the way, B takes E3, E4, the most challenging, I want to say, because after the move Queen E7, the knight is going to get trapped. If you allow H6 and D5, that would be embarrassing to this knight on H3. Hence the move F3. And my goodness, look at the players play. They are going quickly into a position where white has won a pawn. Not the most beautiful, beauteous pawn structure I've ever seen. Double C pawns, double E pawns. But weigh in on this one, Peter. Is this very
surprising to me, to be honest? I understand that black will always have some compensation because white's not very mobile in the center, but you are a full pawn up with a bishop pair to boot. I'm guessing the justification would be that this dark square bishop is extremely restrained, and Jan playing h5 and h4 on your screen there very quickly further restrains it by saying you can't even bring it out by, let's say, d2, e1, g3.
Right.
And white will struggle to do anything in the center here because you really don't want to be playing d3, d4 and weakening this entire... and I want to say, this is a bathtub I've never seen before because the bathtub structure normally looks a bit different, but this is a kind of a reinforced bathtub by white.
Tanya, were you aware of the bathtub structure? The double C, E pawns and a pawn on d3. I was not, by the way. I mean,
it's a smaller reinforced bathtub because normally it would be c4, d3, e3, f4.
Normally, again, it was
c4, d3,
c4, d3,
e3, f4 would be a bathtub.
Yes, that. Okay, yeah, very good.
This one is perhaps a smaller but a fortified
bathtub. A crib.
A cot, a crib. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Interesting pawn structure there in the center. Right. Meanwhile, Jan Nepomniachtchi continues to try and keep the bishops as restricted as possible.
Not the bishop so much as the dark square bishop. He's trying to restrict. So what Peter had mentioned earlier was that in case the dark square bishop went from c1 to e1 to g3, that was the whole h4. So yes, we could go bishop to e1 to f2 to g1 to h2, but you may not find your bishop so active or attractive, if you will, on that diagonal. Eventually came the move d3, d4, and this is the siren call for black to play knight a5. Tanya.
It's a really interesting situation in the center with the four pawns and the king and the bishop lined up. It's crowded in the center for white. There we see the piece placement. Well, right now, an obvious but a big threat on the board that you were pointing out, forking one of the pieces. So it's time to start striking at white's pawn structure.
Absolutely. Knight a5, and that's the big question. I don't think you want to play c5. I'm pretty sure you don't want to play d5. Why did Fabi play d4?
I do not know. I have no answer. And Jan seemingly isn't even interested in knight a5. This is all very confusing to me.
Wow, knight a5 looks so obvious. By the way, that's a very famous line from Dr. Robert Hübner. Asked a question. Robert thought very deliberately, and he said, "I do not know." And he answered very deliberately. But the funny part about that is, for those of you who don't know who Robert Hübner is, Robert Hübner knows everything about everything.
Everything about everything.
So when he said, "I do not know,"
That's
it
big news.
confused everybody. Bishop D3, Tanya. This is somehow White's done something that maybe. Don't you feel White's for choice suddenly? Why did he play G4?
I didn't like the sequence of Bishop D7 followed by G4. Black is still not doing that poorly, but yeah, I'm not sure
Less
why.
and less.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the very obvious option there was not preferred over this.
By the way, important breaking news. Our tournament leader, MBL, is better, much better against Ray Robson. Again, MBL enjoying the half-point lead. Depending on the outcome of this game, if we do have a victor,
Yes,
we'll
sir.
keep,
It's a big one. We'll keep a close watch on that. But right now, sticking to this endgame, and Rook G7 played. And the point that you were making about the knight jump trying to target the pawns in the center, I think that was a really critical moment, because what you really want is to try to force White to push that D pawn further ahead, leaving behind a lot of holes in the position for the knight to jump to. And that was a moment where you could have enforced it by attacking the C4 pawn.
and that was why we were, both Peter and I were so very confused. Why wouldn't you want to encourage White to play D4, D5? As you said, the moment you play D4, D5, you do leave behind two very crucial squares. We're going to make a quick switch here just to jump in on the game of MVL versus Ray Robson.
Massive.
Ooh,
It's game over then.
It's actually mate, yeah.
Let's just jump to Fabi versus.
Whoa. It's over, and
over.
Fabiano has won against Jan
It's
Nepomniachtchi. A
checkmate.
huge win for Fabi.
It's checkmate on the board.